Welcome back to the Sacred Arts channel, where we talk about all things from the sacred to the practical. Today, we have a very special guest, CeeJay Barnaby. We're going to be talking about planetary magic. CeeJay is a many times experiencer of contact with spirits, aliens, UFOs, multidimensional beings, and more. His journey in life has been multidisciplined, with deep dives into consciousness, exploration through plant medicines, meditation, ecstatic dance, breath work, and chaos magic. He's the host for the Super Normalized podcast, where he talks to people about their life experiences in contact with the other and explores how spiritual growth is a journey that is a pathway we all walk. Welcome, CeeJay.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks for having me on the show. I look forward to this talk today, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm very intrigued by planetary magic because I've dabbled a bit in it as well, and just kind of wondering what drew you to planetary magic, what started your journey there.
Okay, so what drew me, honestly, first of all, I was actually doing a lot of magic, what I would call open hand magic. So it was sort of unstructured, doing things just as I felt to intuitively. And I felt there was a need for more. And I was in contact with a friend who is a practicing magician herself. And she suggested, look, you probably need to get yourself in alignment with the planet. So the best thing you can do as a starter is to walk the seven gates, which is the seven planets. And that means getting in contact with the planets, with their spirits, their intelligences, and their angels. And in doing so, that'll actually open up things more for you. And I said, well, how do I do that? And she said, look, there's a good book you could try, and it's by Rufus Opus, and it's called The Seven Spheres. And back then, it was only just freshly sort of released. So I procured that book and did all of the processes in that book. I have since found out that some of those processes aren't exactly in tune with what all of the planetary correspondences are according to other people, but for me at the time it worked amazingly. Over a period, I think it was about 7 or 8 weeks, I went through every single one of those planets, doing all of the practices which allowed you to make contact with those planets and their intelligences and their spirits and their angels. And in doing so, it opened me up to more understanding, more connection to the angels, and in general, more of a flow in my life. It was quite amazing what happened. I mean, one of the things that you're doing as you go through the planets, you're actually contacting the angels of that planet. And for example, in one of them, I had to contact the angel Michael for a Sunday work. And where I live, at that time, it was a large building, and there was a party on in the car park for all of the tenants. And we're all out there standing around, and I had to run inside and do a work with the sun, and a part of that work was contacting Michael. And when I contacted Michael, the alarm for all the buildings went off. Everyone panicked. They all ran to my room and said, "There's a fire! There's a fire!" I was like, "Oh no, there isn't." But and I couldn't explain it to them, but it stopped. But I knew what was going on. It was because Michael was there, and he's very fiery, so he set off the fire alarms.
Wow.
And yeah, it was very powerful. It's like, wow, this is so incredible. It worked so well, and it did. Changed my life. Totally changed my life. Yeah. Gave me
Yeah,
more structure.
I can imagine. I'm kind of curious though, how do you choose which planetary energies to work with any given situation?
Depends on what you're doing. So, well, to make it super clear and sort of simple, I mean, everyone knows Venus is for love, for example. So if you're doing love work, you can invoke Venus to bring her along to help you. And for sort of martial protection sort of work, you've got Michael, of course. For doing any work to do with the emotions and processing the emotions, you've got the moon. And then for communications, you've got Mercury. Yeah. For expansion of things, you've got Jupiter. So, finance and money and bringing abundance in, Jupiter. But he expands everything, so you got to watch that too. And then for really hard work, you've got Saturn, so he can help you get through hard work. I'll actually use Saturn also for time work as well, to slow down time or speed up time accordingly. You've got to pay it back later, but when you really need it, that can really work out well. Just for those examples, yeah. So
I'm curious, do you work with Pluto at all, and in what context do you work with Pluto in?
I work with mainly the 7 planets. I haven't really worked with Pluto in that sort of way, but Pluto, is a part of the celestial sphere, and um, does influence everybody. If anything, I'd probably do remediation work against Pluto because because Pluto can shake things up quite a lot in ways that can be perceived as negative at the time, but also turn out to be positive later on. So if things are a bit rough, and I know it's because of Pluto's work, I'll find a chant and do some rounds of a set of mala beads, like 108 beads, and chant to Pluto to appease that energy. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Would you be able to share any specific success stories or notable experiences from your planetary magic practice?
Success stories. I mean, generally, I would say that the overall and overarching success story is that when I wasn't doing this work previously, it felt like my life was more like being inside a pinball machine. I was at the mercy of the forces that are all around us all of the time, and without understanding. So when things were happening, I didn't know how to react, or how to defend myself against energies in my life. So it literally felt like I was inside a pinball machine. Like you're like, oh my god, this is happening now. But once you find your way into connecting with the planets on a daily sort of basis, it seems to make, well, I know it does. It actually makes everything a lot smoother. That doesn't mean that you're never going to have problems. There's always going to be something that comes along and can trip you up. But by becoming aware of the energies of the planets and honoring those energies, as I've found with a daily practice, it means that you find that all of your life flows just a lot easier, and you feel more in tune with everything. And it's good to be aware of what planet is for what day, and how that affects your day, and how that may roll out. And in knowing that, it makes life just so much more rich. You feel more of a connection to everything, I think. Yeah.
I think that would make sense because when you're doing that kind of work, you are aligning yourself
Yeah.
with spirit, right? You're aligning yourself with the angels or the energies that apply to
Yeah.
whatever working you're doing. And so when you come closer and closer in alignment, or you're in connection with spirit, things seem to kind of unclog, or to um kind of flow with ease and
Yeah.
uh, flow, right? Like, I don't know, there's something about doing this kind of work because we're all kind of like in the hustle and bustle of, the 9 to 5 and the kids and the spouse and the whatnot. We hardly ever set time aside for our spiritual nourishment. And it sounds like Planetary Magic gave you that opportunity to be able to feed your
Yes.
your soul, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely feed my soul, and also just in acknowledgement of the planets. It it seems like as soon as you start to acknowledge them, they start to acknowledge you, and then you get benefits from that, and guidance that just comes through. And it's interesting when it happens, and you just feel more in tune with everything. And to me,
Yes.
that's an important thing. I've always liked to have that felt feeling of connection, and that makes life more rich. Definitely for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, like, how often would you recommend somebody to be practicing planetary magic? Is this part of your everyday? Is this a once a quarter, once a year type of situation?
That would depend on the person and what they actually need. I personally, I do a practice every day myself, and in the doing of that work, I wake up just before the sunrise, often, and just because the sun's calling me for some reason, and I get up and I light a candle for the planet of that day and do a prayer to that planet to honor that planet, and then basically grabbing that string which actually goes all the way to the planet and giving it a twang. It's like it's grabbing its attention too, and it puts its attention back on you, and it listens to you, and um, you can throw in at the end of your prayer anything that you need for that day, and hopefully things do start to work for you when you work that way. So I can't really prescribe anything exactly per person because everyone is different. But if you wanted to look into it, there's so many books out there and that can actually help with your understanding of planetary magic or even courses. I mean, I do actually. I studied under also a practitioner called Gordon Wyatt through his Rune Soup course, and I found that immensely powerful. I learned so many things through that. To do with all sorts of facets of magic, but there's lots of really good touch points on planetary magic in that and how that can be integrated into your life and your regular practice and the honoring of the world that you live in.
I really love that practice that you just shared because I often struggle so much with like Mars. Like, I don't want anything to do with Mars. Um, it just feels very intimidating. So I often practice, on Thursdays with Jupiter, on Fridays with Venus, for beauty and, love and whatnot, self-love. I work a lot on self-love. And every so often, with Saturn and Mercury, like those are like the four main planets that I work with. And then the other ones, I'm like, I feel like I really need to have a connection with the other ones, but I had no idea how to
Where to
even
start?
begin. I
Yeah.
love the idea of offering the candle and, offering a prayer,
Mm.
to each planet. That sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, there's so many ways you can do this just off the cuff too. You can actually do a search online for the Orphic hymns, and there's specific hymns which are for each planet. And, for example, you're saying that you're having trouble with Mars, but Mars has been great for me. And I actually went through a time there where I was quite overweight, and I called out to Mars through my practice. And then suddenly on one of my social media feeds, I started to get these little ads for this group that I was like, I've never heard of that group. And it was about a special sort of fasting technique. And that works so amazingly. I lost so many kilos really quickly. And Mars was at my back, saying, get it done. Because Mars is like so martial. It's like, just do it. But it worked really, really well. I mean, Mars isn't always my friend. I mean, recently I had a time when Mars was literally in opposition to my natal sun. And during that time, um, I was finding things quite challenging, but also felt like I had to do a lot of things, which is really crazy. And in doing one of those things, I had a piece of wood fall down on both of my hands and cracked my my wrist, and I was like, oh no. But that was just me being, too martial, and Mars, getting his back at
Yeah.
me for whatever reason. But I should have been in recognition of more of that energy at the time. So yeah, there's sometimes that I do miss the attunement, but yeah, Mars can be super, super helpful. I mean, if you want something to get done, just say, Mars, help me get this done, and Mars will pretty much put a sword to your back and say, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels very aggressive.
Oh yeah, but it's important to have some sort of that like masculine sort of force in your life. I mean, Mars
True.
is relentless, and Mars will help you to get things done for sure.
Very true. Very true.
Hmm.
Can you share with us what kind of rituals or practices do you typically incorporate into your planetary magic work?
Okay, so through the learnings I got from the Rune Soup membership that I'm still in, I was under the study of the Heptameron, which is a ancient book. I wouldn't go into any more detail about its history or anything because I'm not sort of that much of a grimoire buff, but it has in it planetary prayers that I found really really nice and powerful, and those ones actually helped me to connect on a daily basis to the planets, and it for me, when I'm doing that practice every day, I light the candle, I say the prayer, and then if there's anything extra I need to add in for that day, I add it in at the end. And one thing I'd like to note though is it's not something that you just do mechanically. You can do it just mechanically and just say it and then walk away. But I like to get myself into sort of like a connective sort of state, like a trance sort of state, and just by being still for a moment just before it, and tuning in a way that I feel right, which is like opening up my intuition. And in doing so, I feel like I'm ready, and then I say the prayer. And then if there's something that's really pressing on me, I will say the prayer with like impassioned sort of speech. So, and I'd like to imagine myself as being on a stage, and the planet is in the audience, and I'm saying it to the planet like I'm like a powerful stage actor. And in doing so, I feel the buzz from that, and that allows me to connect even more so to the practice. And I feel that that passion carries through into your prayer, and it's even more so heard.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So in your bio, you mentioned chaos magic. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you can kind of describe what are the differences between planetary magic and chaos magic?
Differences. Okay, so there's no real differences. What we should frame for chaos magic is like a practice which is uh, been developed over the last, I'd say, even close to 100 years from many practitioners. And to put it plainly, what chaos magic is using any magic that works, and whatever works for you works. And so, as a part of that, you can incorporate planetary magic. So it's not like a different thing; it's actually together. So you can use any form of magic to make things work. Um, I don't know why they call it chaos magic, and I probably should know that before I talk about it. But I think it's more in alignment with just being. It's like uh, maybe it's just like practical magic. It's being just practical about things and getting things done. Really, I mean, I've been
Yeah.
doing it now for a long time, and I didn't have a word for it. And then when I got a word for it, it's like I don't even know if that word works. But yeah, that's what it's called now.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think the reason why they call it chaos magic is because there isn't like, I think a lot of like, for example, Solomonic magic, right? I've studied Solomonic magic for a long time, and you actually have to do things at a certain time on a certain day with a certain seal. Like it's very, very specific, and the offerings are
Mm.
very, very specific. Whereas with chaos magic, you go off your intuition, you go off like you take pieces from like your different practices and you're able to incorporate it into one big ceremony and one big ritual, if you will. Whereas like other type of magic, like Solomonic magic, it has to be like you have to kind of follow the recipe, if you will, or the spell or the ritual, if you will.
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, look, the
That's the
reason
way
why
I
they,
think of it.
yeah, I totally get it, and you know, with that sort of method, it does work because it's been done for so many hundreds of years
Yeah.
by many people, and so like imagine it to be like being like a key to a door. They've done these works and tested them over time, over time, over time, and found that all of these keys open this door really nicely. So chaos magicians probably take that and then refine it so that it's even more efficient. I mean, I like to think of myself as almost like a lazy sort of sorcerer. It's like I'll do what works, but like if I've got to go and run off into the forest and find a bud of a tree that's flowering only in winter at a certain time and pick it only when the moon's in a certain I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Just,
No, I hear you. That's
I've got
the
time
way.
for that.
Yeah, that's why I
So
prefer chaos magic over anything else. Although it's nice to know things like Solomonic magic, like, oh, let's see what works for other people and see if I can kind of incorporate it. I will
yeah,
say it does work, but I find it everybody's different, everybody's wired different, everybody has different kinds of guides, different types of like paths. And so I think that chaos magic gives us the ability to experiment and
yes.
figure out what does work for us as individuals.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, I would easily say about myself that I'm a practical sort of person. So as soon as says somebody starts saying something about something, I'm thinking about, oh, let's do that. You know,
Yeah.
thinking about how can we do that? Let's do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that the chaos magic sort of method actually really does appeal to me because it's just like super practical. I
Yeah,
find.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how do you integrate astrology into your planetary magic practice, or is it even a factor?
It is a factor in some things, like if I'm actually doing a specific sort of work and uh, for a specific sort of time, or if I need to find alignments that are transits that are happening that actually make that even stronger, I'll do that. And then when it comes to the astrological magic, I'll do the Orphic hymn for that planet for that time. Um, but I'll do it in a certain sequence. So I honor the planet of the day, honor the planet that I'm honoring for this work, and then do the work that I'm doing, which probably involve often candle magic and then petitions after that Orphic hymn. So yeah, that's the way I would do it. I would do it that sort of method mainly.
That makes sense. I'm curious, is there at any point, like, there are some practitioners out there that talk about like the moon being in the void, never to do practices around that. Do you have any like kind of rules around like, oh, if a planet is in this certain state based on your natal chart, do you shy away from performing your ritual, or is that not even a factor?
I I don't really factor that in, which probably is the reason why some things don't work all the time. So, but yeah, I think it's important probably to actually have that extra understanding to know when the planet is in detriment in fall, for example, because then it's obviously not going to work as well. It's easy to actually to look that up. I mean, I've got an app myself that I use on my phone that I can look up and see these things.
Yeah.
Um, but being super practical, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. Because I think that sometimes your own personal power can still push things through. So yeah,
I'm actually the same exact way. Although recently I'm trying to look more into this and be like, all right, well, let's see if I'm able to like make things happen when I'm actually looking at some of the voids or looking at some of like the astrology aspects of the planets. And so it's a year of experimenting for me, if you will.
oh, I don't know, and when it stops, really, it's just I think we're always experimenting, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite planet to work with?
Favorite. I wouldn't say I have really any favorites, because I've worked with all of them and had great effects from all of them. Although I do find myself shying away a bit from doing work with Saturn because, yeah, Saturn, it's yeah, it seems to be a bit of a challenge for me at times. I mean, it's in my birth chart in the first house, so I have a lot of Saturn as it is. So I'm like, more hard work. I don't need it. So
Oh
yeah,
my God,
I
that's
probably
funny.
should work on that.
Yeah, it sounds like your Saturn is like my Mars.
Oh right, so you got Mars in the first house, yeah.
My Mars is actually in the fourth house, and
Okay.
I'm just like not about it.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it'll come to you when it's meant to, and you'll get some work done there.
I think I'm getting closer to it. I think that this conversation is warming me up to it. I like the idea of the prayer and just doing an offering like um not asking for anything, but just
Yeah,
offer, right? Like, I
that's
think
right.
that's a great way to start.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's often that I don't actually ask for anything at all. I'm just doing an honoring, as a daily practice. So I've been doing that now for probably 5 or 6 years, and that's, I would say, almost every day since then. And yeah, it, it's to me, it's just a part of the bringing more beauty to the world.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm.
I love that.
Mm.
I'm curious also, how do you address potential challenges or conflicts between planetary energies in your practice?
Oh, okay. So if I've got something happening that's a bit of a negative sort of transit, so things are a bit intense, I will actively get the right chant for that that's going on. I mean, recently had really hard work with Rahu, and Rahu keep kept on stealing my money and ripping me off, and causing all sorts of drama around money and finance. And I didn't know what was going on until I went and got a reading with a sorcerer in Thailand, and he pointed it out. I was like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that." But, yeah, then I discovered some remediation from some of my Indian friends, and they said to do these chants that'll help really well. So I did a chant cycle of 10,000 chants to Rahu over a period of 40 something days. And that settled things down a lot. Didn't stop everything, but it settled down things a lot. So I think I've got Rahu, pushed back quite a bit now. But yeah, that's one way to do it, is to actually find the chant for that planet if you're finding that you're actually having some challenging life outcomes from it. And then that seems to, from what I've experienced myself, it does actually smooth the feathers of the world, I think, of your world experience.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, are there any specific tools or symbols associated with your planetary magic rituals?
Oh, okay. So I got a lot of my first symbols from that book that I read, which was The Seven Spheres by Rufus Opus. And since then, they've pretty much stuck with me. Otherwise, no, I don't do any other real symbolic sort of work. I just know the glyphs from astrology, and work with those because I have a large sort of like powerful egregore base anyway, because of all the people's understanding behind it, and all the experiences of everyone that have used those symbols before. So I use those.
Yeah, I find it really important to like understand the symbols of the planets. I had one person who's a practitioner. She was doing a love spell and for some reason put like uh the Pluto symbol on her candle, and
What?
the candle literally exploded. And the
Wow.
relationship, obviously, like she understands why the relationship didn't work out, but I find it so important to understand the symbols and what you're
Yeah.
putting drawing on your candles. And if you're going to use symbols at all, right, you can,
Yeah,
for
that's right.
me
You can
everything is
short
about
circuit the lights.
intention. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Using the wrong symbol, you can actually short circuit your life. So yeah,
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about what you're
She said
doing.
the candle exploded. I was like, I'm not surprised.
It's like Aphrodite
What
went, no, wrong symbol.
are you doing? She said she made a mistake. She thought it was the Venus symbol or something like that, but
Wow.
that was really interesting.
Mhm.
Uh Anecdote that she gave me. I was like, I'm going to keep that in mind because I'm going to double check and triple check that I'm using the correct symbols moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. It is important to that sort of level, for sure. I mean, if you get the wrong symbols, you can invite in the wrong energies. I mean, just think of it as like the symbol is like a doorway, a connection directly to whatever is behind that symbol and all the power that came before it. So if you use the wrong symbol, you might be opening portals to things that aren't so helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have to do all the work to clean it up.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, for sure.
Is a bigger headache than, yeah, so it's best to like double check and triple check what
Yeah, for
you
sure.
can. Um, how do you keep track of planetary transits and phases of your magical work?
Okay, so I use an app on my phone, and I forgot the name of it right now. Let me just see if I can get it up here. Time Nomad. There we go.
Oh yeah, I use that one too.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And at first, I was like, I'm not going to buy all the other aspects and things like that. I don't need that. And I ended up buying all the plugins for it because it has so much information, and it'll tell you literally what is happening when, and also give you alerts to your own personal chart if you like. So it's really good to be across um, everything that's happening. Imagine it like this: you've got a road that you're traveling, which is your life. I mean, this is a simplistic version of it. And there's a pothole ahead, which is actually a transit, which is negative. It's better to be able to see that pothole rather than drive straight into it. So with that app, I find that I can see a lot of the potholes way ahead,
Mm,
and avoid them, or remediate them in some way to calm down the energies.
yeah, for sure.
Mm,
Definitely a helpful tool to have and to at least like I think of astrology and apps like Time Nomad as like a way to understand the energies that are happening and just be the observer and
yeah,
just know like this isn't me. This is what's happening in the collective. This is what's happening in the stars. And
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, it
my
allows me
my
to
wife
kind of
sorry, my wife sometimes says to me, "Look, I'm feeling really not right about everything right now. Can you look at my stars?" So I look it up on Time Nomad, and I can say, "Well, these are the aspects you're going through right now. You might be feeling like this and like this and like this." She goes, "Oh yeah, I am. Don't worry about it. It finishes by this time."
that's
So
amazing. You
yeah,
know, there's another app that she might really love. Have you ever heard of the Pattern app?
no,
Yeah, Pattern
yeah,
is it takes the astrology aspect of it and it gives you like what your timing is in the world. So like right now, for example, I'm in a new beginning stage. My husband
oh,
is in an activate his power stage. And then you can actually time travel. So you can go back to like let's say 2020 or 2021 or 2022 and see where were you at and what stages you were at, and you can kind of correlate like, oh yeah, I was kind of going through this, was kind of going through
mm,
change
mm,
or whatnot. It's
yeah.
such an amazing app. I recommend it to almost every client that I have.
Oh wow, cool. I've never heard of it. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Like, it's called the Pattern app, or does it have another name or?
Yeah, it's called the Pattern app. I'll send
Okay.
you an email with a link to it or like
Oh,
a
lovely. Thank
screenshot
you.
of the logo. It's like a white logo with like a black little like brush inside of it or something like
Yeah,
that.
cool. Okay.
It's really good. I find it super helpful.
Yeah, no, that sounds really, really good. In fact, I think I'll definitely get that one for sure and get my wife onto it. And then we can figure out how our energies are interacting and also the path that we're going at that time.
Yeah, yeah. It actually shows my husband and I together and what he's going through, what I'm going through, and it even shows the collective, like the world together
Wow.
as well.
Wow, that's cool.
Which is really cool. I love it.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
I hate technology and I love technology all at the same time because we have so many tools at the tip of our hands, but there's
Yeah.
some problems with it sometimes.
Yeah, well, use it while it's here because it's useful. I mean, that's what I find. And yeah, I mean, maybe in the past, a lot of this stuff we would have actually done with our own intuitions, and being, on the land and in the earth all the time. We would have had more of a connection to that sort of deep intuition. But for now, these are great tools.
Yeah, absolutely. Use them to the fullest. So I'm wondering, can you recommend any resources or books for someone interested in learning more about planetary magic?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I did say before, the Rufus Opus book, The Seven Spheres, I found was really good for a good starter. Nice and simple, and very easy to walk down if you have no idea of what you're doing, which worked really well for me. I had no idea at that stage. I was yeah, very green. But then a really wealthy sort of information I found was through well, first of all, finding things online. I found a lot of things online which were free and very helpful. But if you wanted to really get into stuff and an understanding of Planetary Magic and the things you can do, I would highly recommend the Rune Soup membership course, because there's lots of different courses in there which cover different aspects of magic, including Planetary Magic and grimoires that cover Planetary Magic, and how you can actually use those to gain a greater understanding of yourself and your world and your relationship to magic, and how it can help you and help you to grow with a sort of deep, conscious, and I would even say animist sort of base, because of the guy that runs it all, Gordon, is a wealth of knowledge. I swear the guy's a genius. He might be even an incarnation of John Dee, for all I can understand. But yeah, that's where I would say go. You know, look for some really good books on Planetary Magic, and yeah, try out the Rune Soup course if that's something that appeals to you, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely link those down below. So where can people find you? Where can they listen to your podcast? And what do you have upcoming?
Okay, so listen to my podcast on any podcast app. If you look up the word super normalized with a Z, and that's all one word, super and normalized. And otherwise, if you need to, you can go to my website as well, which is supernormalized.com. And things that are coming up, I'm attempting to finish my book, which is like a lot of my contact experience stories, and that's taken quite a while. I've written it now twice and had some weirdness happen with my computer, and both times it's been erased. And it's like, what? Because both times I got up to like 40,000 words and it's like gone. So this time I've got it actually mirrored in multiple places. So yeah, like at least 5 different places mirrored all over the world. So no way it's going to go this time.
Do you think
And
that's a
I
coincidence?
I don't know. Like my little paranoid self says they did it, whoever they is. But yeah, but the strange thing is when it goes, the folder is still there, but there's nothing in it. I was like,
Whoa.
yeah. But yeah, that's the main thing that I want to try and get out there. I'm pushing on that myself, trying to get up to the point where I think this is releasable, because I read my stuff and I'm like, oh, it's all right, but I'd like it to be something where people will read it and go, wow, that experience actually informed me about my experience of my life, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. So that's part of the reason why I do the podcast as well. For example, I like to hear other people's experiences of the world and how they relate to the world, and how they're doing that through just being or contact experiences or the healing modalities. And I do that because for a long time, when because I've had a lot of experiences myself, it doesn't seem to get heard by people. So I'm now trying to bring a platform for people where they can be heard. And I'm getting feedback from people saying, look, the podcast is great because I now know about this and it's helped me to do this in my life. I'm like, well, that's great. That's the reason why I'm doing this. It's exactly the reason. So yeah, it's working out well. And yeah, otherwise, nothing really on the boil. Just living my life.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Well, yeah, do let me know when the book comes out. I would love to have you back on to talk about some of the paranormal experiences that you've had,
Yeah, for sure.
or
Love to.
the contacts that you've had. That sounds like a fascinating subject, and would love to have you on to promote the book.
Thank you very much, Jesse. I'd appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me on today. I really enjoyed our conversation again.
Yeah, me too. This was enlightening. I now have a couple of new ideas of how I can connect better with certain planets that I've been avoiding. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with me and the audience. For those of you that are still listening in, we would love to hear from you down in the comments. Send us an emoji on how you feel about this episode. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next week. So when you join my Patreon, you get the uncut version of each episode, and we go a lot deeper. For example, on this one, at the end, I talk about my recent awakening and my relation to the Black Jaguar. You get to catch the conversations before and after with each guest, and you get so many bonus types of content. So just for $3 a month, you support the podcast and you help us move forward with interviewing more guests and learning on this journey. So join my Patreon to support.